Hi, welcome to a short video about employer and employee training per the New Mexico Administrative Code regulations for cannabis establishments. There are 4 sections in the New Mexico Administrative Code 16.8.2 to pay attention to. Right now, I am on page 16 and I'm showing you the cannabis producer policies and procedures. From there, you have a grouping of training that shows you exactly what to put together for you and your employees. And then from there, you have how to keep documentation and how to retain documentation for auditing. If you look at this, you'll notice that you're abiding by the CRA, Cannabis Regulation Act, and the Lynn and Aaron Compassionate Use Act, and that a lot of this language overlaps. For example, A1 A through H is really procedural, and they're giving you like an overlapping or overlaying concepts of what you need to be creating, like SOPs and protocols for example. Then once you get into section 2, it's like telling you what employee policies and procedures you have to follow with minimum requirements. You'll notice that some of this can be created in content. At Seedcrest, for example, we have these as a training program, and we actually keep them updated and test on these very things yearly. So you can do it a variety of different ways, but I just do want you to know, as somebody who writes curriculum around this material, that it overlaps quite a bit. And there's a difference between training and standard operating procedures, right? So draw from this what you can and create your training program, or rely on folks like Seedcrest to help guide you around this. And we can, show you our curriculum, show you how it overlaps, all that good stuff. So the training program itself has to be implemented with these minimum topics within 30 days of your employee's start date. And then from there, you cover it yearly. Okay, so down here it says they receive an annual refresher course of the topics in the section, right? So essentially, you have to be paying attention to stuff like HIPAA, food handler safety. Yeah, but those are bare minimum requirements. If your employees are only getting certified in HIPAA and food handler safety, but they don't know anything about occupational safety, safety and security, the Alcohol and Drug-Free Workplace Act, how to respond to an emergency or crime prevention, or how it works at the state level. Also like consumer rights, employer rights, employee rights, licensing, all that good stuff. You're really selling yourself short, because this training program includes that you do teach all of that stuff, along with OSHA and environmental health and safety, or EHS programs, and create SOPs around that, right? Now, you do have to keep a list of your people and their names and job duties. I would just go ahead and add on, if you're going to keep compliant documents, their badge numbers and stuff like that, so you have it all in one document. Document the refresher training and their 30-day training. Don't forget the 30-day and so it's onboarding and annually. And then document the training topics that they took. Now, that's where I'm saying to condense some of these and create actual classes for them and tests, make sure they're retaining this, right? So if you don't have time to do that and your compliance officer doesn't have time to spend with them as trainees, then please do consider groups like Seedcrest to help you. Okay, then from here, you do have to get a signature verifying that all of your trainees have completed the training, right? And there's more of that up in here where they tell you to verify. And then the retention of the documentation is very important. If you don't have a database, our system at Seedcrest does have a database to help you retain documents. And also, so for 2 years, you have to retain current. And then if you let them go or they leave, for at least 6 months after termination. So if you don't have a methodology, we've got one. But if you do, that's great. Make sure that you're just keeping it up to date, because they can audit you on this at any time, really. So minimum, like I said, requirements for producers are, yes, even though they're in the grow and they're producing, they have to be HIPAA compliant. And it says here, if they're packaging cannabis products, they need to complete the food handler course. If they're manufacturing, transporting, right? It's very vague, but I say you just get it done and it'll mitigate your risk. And then let's move on to section 33. I'm going to show you guys Something next is the manufacturing training, right? Look, same section, just with the word manufacturer. Okay, section 33 gives the minimum policies and procedures requirements. And it's the same topics here, you guys. That's why at Seedcrest we provide that cannabis establishment tech training, because it covers all of this, just not your SOPs. We can always help with that, but it'll make it easier for your trainees to understand your SOPs once they've taken training. So anyway, notice section 2 and how that's so comparable to the section 2 in that section 26 that we just read up above. And then notice that this has more to do with equipment and machinery because you're in a manufacturing setting, but overall this is EHS and OSHA training. And then notice that it's telling you that they have to get their food handler safety. So again, minimum requirements, HIPAA, food handler safety, right? But you guys, OSHA and EHS training, crime prevention, all of this up here is super important for them to even understand the why behind it, what your business is up against, how it works at the state level, consumer law, their rights as an employee, all that good stuff, right? And then creating SOPs from all this is what I recommend. So now let's go on. I've shown you now section 26 and section 33, which was producer and manufacturer. Now let's check out retailer in section 39. Check it out. Cannabis retailer policies and procedures. Only word is different is retailer. Look, same topics. HIPAA, bare minimum, and food handlers. You're also mitigating your company risk and your company liability to the public. So you may run this training and some of this by your legal teams as well, just to make sure that you understand fully what laws this is mitigating. HIPAA is quite simply federal HIPAA law, right? Drug-Free Workplace Act, right in here. Check this out. You need to know what the Drug-Free Workplace Act is. You need to teach that to your employees, right? Also, food handler safety, all of that, very important stuff. And then health and hazard safety, OSHA, right? Cleaning, emergency operations, crime prevention, safety and security, all of these overlap in every sector. So if you have a vertical model, in essence, you should probably be putting together an overarching training program as a standard. And then from there, you can add on per sector. Like let's say in manufacturing, you just need to add on those equipment pieces, your chain of custody, your how to keep records, all of that has to do with the processes, which again is standard operating procedures, policies, protocols, right? But overarching should be some sort of a training program that gives you a standard similar to that which we have at Seedcrest. We used to call it the core compliance training. Now we call it the cannabis establishment technician training, okay? So, from here, training documentation and retention is the same in all sectors. Now we've gone over producer, we've gone over manufacturer and retailer. Now check it out. We're going to go to section 47. And we are going to learn about we're going to actually compare the testing labs. Oh, wow. Check it out. 47. Only thing different, testing laboratory policies and procedures. And this is a little more meaty. Okay. These guys have a different type of environment that requires sterilization in a different way, apparently, according to our regulators and the writers of this. So in looking at this, really needs to be specific for cannabis testing laboratories, okay? And they need to understand how all of this plays into standard operating procedures. But look, HIPAA, crime prevention, safety, Drug-Free Workplace Act, all of this stuff within here. Again, Cannabis Establishment Tech course does train. So having that baseline standard, again, for your testing lab, and then your operating procedures and your standard operating procedures as the second step, is something that you can look at. A lot of OSHA training, record keeping, and documentation. Excuse me there, guys. Machine calibrations, all of that good stuff is in here. But then you go to C and D, and this is telling you a lot more details of how you need to maintain records in your lab. So all of this is similar, but D seems to be a little bit different. from the producer, retailer, manufacturer setting. Okay, so testing labs, out of the four are the most different. The other three overlap. And if you have a vertical model, you can't be a testing lab anyway. So you can pretty much bet that your standard could be the same for a vertical model as it is for any of the three that you operate, as far as creating something and then writing up your SOPs. And then for the testing lab, those opening testing labs wondering about employer-employee training really need to read this section thoroughly and a few other sections in the testing lab documents, okay? All right, I hope this was helpful to you. Again, if you're going to go to sections 26, 33, 39, and 47 of the New Mexico Administrative Code 16.8.2 doc, or regulations rather, for cannabis establishments. Okay,